At our firm, at Cookman Law, we love helping families wrap up a trust when a loved one has died. This process is called trust administration. And it might seem like it should be simple, right? I mean, there's the trust, just follow the instructions on the trust, and the stuff somehow with a magic wand gets to the next generation. I wish it was this simple, but unfortunately, there's many ways that this process can go sideways. I want to share some horror stories of things that we've actually encountered at Cookman Law and give you some tips on how you can avoid those things in your own estate plan. And hopefully this also encourages you to get help with your trust administration when your loved one does pass away. All right, so one situation we see that comes up in trust administration is, it's unfortunately, but sometimes a child is disinherited. Somebody is estranged from the family and you choose not to leave them anything. And you can put that into your trust. But I encourage you not to leave that person, let's say, $1. I've seen people do that. And you know what happens? You have to actually get a receipt that's signed by that person saying they received $1. Now, who do you think in their right mind, who probably is already really bitter at this process, is going to sign a receipt saying, I received $1? Probably nobody. Okay, so you have to be very careful when you're disinheriting somebody. You also have to look to see, are they entitled to a copy of the trust? Are they entitled to a notice that says that the person has died? Okay, all these things have to be carefully considered. And so these are reasons you should have an attorney for drafting your trust and for the trust administration after someone has died. Now, there are some assets that are just not held in the trust. Like, let's say somebody has a burial plot that's not held in the trust. I've had some clients who have had trouble accessing their parents' burial plot, even though they are the trustee. And we've had to step in and basically use our mean lawyer voice to get them to release the information and allow for management of that burial plot that's not held in the trust. Speaking of assets not held in the trust, here's something else that can happen. There are accounts that you can leave something payable on death or transfer on death. It's POD or TOD, all right? And what that means is you have this account and you just name a beneficiary. And upon the person's death, it goes straight to the beneficiary. Well, I've had a situation where it was a married couple and the husband said upon his death, whether he's the first or second person to die, he wants a certain amount of money to go to his nephew and a certain amount of money to go to his niece. And then, but he only wants it to come out of the liquid assets of the trust because he didn't want like the house to have to be sold. So he died and he had set up his accounts, even though I told him not to, he had set up his accounts payable on death. And so it all went to his wife, but there was no money in the trust to make distributions to the niece or the nephew. Oh my goodness, were they ticked. They were really upset. But there were no liquid assets in the trust to distribute. And you better believe the wife needed every dollar that she received from another way. She was not obliged to give the niece or the nephew any money. So if you're leaving cash gifts to somebody, make sure that you actually have cash in your trust or something can be sold to generate cash to provide for those gifts, or you could have a fight on your hands. Now, one thing I see is a lot of people like to have assets in many different places. They worry like, what if this bank goes down? Or, we want to have the FDIC insured amount in many different accounts. And that could be okay for you to manage, but are you keeping a list of all those different assets? I have had cases where it's taken the successor trustee a long time to marshal all the assets because they had to locate where are all of these kept? Where does everything, are some at this bank or some at this mutual fund? I don't know where it is, right? So when we have clients sign their trust, we also provide a spreadsheet that you can fill in and say, hey, here are where all of my assets are kept. Or if you're living in a county that requires a Schedule A, and I have a video on Schedule A's that I encourage you to watch, a list of the schedule of assets at the back of your trust. The successor trustee can look at that to identify all of them. But I encourage you, make it easy on them, okay? The next time you do an amendment to your trust, I encourage you to consolidate all of those different accounts into one account, and your kids and the successor trustee will thank you for it.
Hey everyone, if you like my mom's video, like and subscribe.
All right, now here's something else that I've encountered in the trust administration. A lot of people like naming charities, and I wholeheartedly encourage you to, but there's a big but to that. If you name a charity as a remainder beneficiary, if they're entitled to a percentage of the assets, then they will want, most likely, an accounting, a full accounting of what went in, what went out after you had died, or the loved one had died, a list of all the assets. They want to make sure that they're getting every penny that they're entitled to. Okay. Not all charities do this. I had one charity recently who waived an accounting, and I was so grateful because they were getting just 3% of all the trust assets. But that would have taken a long time. It would have been a big trust expense. So if you're leaving a small amount to charity, I encourage you to leave a cash gift and not a percentage to the charity, so that you don't have to deal, or your successor trustee doesn't have to deal with that charity on the back end and having them entitled to all the information. Charities can also be kind of pushy. They want their money. They want to make sure that things don't get stalled. So, keep that in mind. So another way that I've seen trust administrations go sideways is, who do you name as successor trustee? Sometimes parents think that, I'm going to name both of my kids as co-successor trustees because they don't get along so well, but they will learn to get along during the trust administration if I name them as co-successor trustees. Oh, I wish I could just tear out my hair when I hear this. If they're not getting along while you're alive, when they're on their best behavior, you better believe they're not going to get along when you're gone. I remember I had one case where it was an elderly gentleman whose wife had recently passed away. He came in, we did the trust administration for him. He came in with his 2 children who seemed to get along fine. And then a year later, he passed away. One of the children was named a successor trustee and one of them was not. And boy, there was a lot of fighting going on. I was so shocked. I thought these kids, they'd be able to overcome their differences, but no, it was really a mess. So that was a situation where one was named a successor trustee and the other one was not. So there's no real answer. Should I name them as co-trustees? Should I name one as trustee and not the other one? I've had another family where she knew that her 2 sons didn't get along, and so she named a private fiduciary. And that, I think, was brilliant. So if you think your kids might be fighting after you're gone, it could really make sense to name a neutral third party, such as a bank or a private fiduciary, as successor trustee, and then you avoid the fighting between the kids. The kids can all get mad at the professional fiduciary, and they're being paid to handle that ire, right? So please keep that in mind. One other thing that I've seen happen is, while somebody was alive, they told a family member, like a sibling, verbally, hey, when I die, you're going to get this certain amount of money. But they never wrote it into the trust. So you have somebody who's expecting some money, but it's not in the trust. Well, you can imagine this led to some huge fights. Okay, it was a married couple. The wife said to her siblings, you guys are each going to get this amount of money. Never made it into the trust. They weren't entitled to any money. But those siblings were really mad at the husband. And now I don't think they're on speaking terms. So please don't make any promises unless it's written down. Okay, especially to extended family members. People get in their mind, oh, I'm going to get all this money. This will be great. And then if it doesn't turn out just the way they think it should, that can cause a problem and it can lead to fights and litigation. And if you know anything about me, I don't like fights and I don't like going to court. Okay, I'm an attorney who likes avoiding all of that. We want your family to get along afterwards. So I hope that this video has been helpful to see where some of those pitfalls are that can happen due to improper estate planning or just not having the right attorney acting as your guide through the trust administration process. So I encourage you to reach out to our office and we can help you wrapping up a trust administration. I also encourage you to watch this video on what happens to my trust when I die. And I talk about all of those different steps, and I'll see you over there.
Hello everyone. If you liked my mom's video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you all next time.